Welcome to Spiritual Dialogues with Father Odon de Castro. We are here at Cariana Lay Monastic Community. I'm your host, Brother Lodi. With us is Sister Tachi. Sister?
Yes, Father, we were just talking before the program began about this confusion in the Catholic Church, which seems to be starting from the top, the Vatican, starting with that synod that was held in 2015. Maybe, Father, we can be clarified regarding this.
Yes, so our program is directed towards disentangling the confusion that is going on in the Catholic Church, in the hope that when the confusion is removed or clarified, then the teaching of the Catholic Church will be very clear for everybody. And there are many sources of confusion, of course. Some because the priests do not know their theology, some bishops do not know their theology, and of course the Catholic Church is surrounded by heretics and so on. But these few programs, we're going to concentrate on the personality of Pope Francis and how he has caused, probably inadvertently or intentionally, we are not sure, some confusion in the Catholic Church. And the question of Sister Tachi is really directed towards what happened in the year 2015 during the Bishop Synod. Now, during that Bishop Synod, it is very clear that before the Synod, the conclusions were already made by the people who were running the Synod. Of course, the Secretary of the Synods presented some topics for discussion without realizing that the Pope has already written down the conclusion for the Synod. In other words, what has been going to be approved. And this was very obvious because the secretaries of the Synod, one of them was, of course, Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines, was already announcing what was going to be approved by the Synod and presenting it as something already approved when the Synod has not yet begun.
What is the use of the discussion if there is already confusion?
That makes your eyebrows.
And that's a good question because in the last Synod, the same thing happened. In this last Synod of the family also, but referring to the youth, which has just been concluded in the Vatican, the cardinals and the bishops who were participating noticed that the conclusion of what they were discussing were already made, even before they finished the discussion. So they were objecting how come the conclusions were already made when they were still discussing the topics. So it seems to be a way of doing things in the Vatican, that they decide first what is going to be approved, and then they hold a meeting pretending that the bishops are discussing the topics when the truth is that the conclusions have been made.
So there's no need for discussion, actually.
Actually, there was no need for discussion. But what happened in the year 2015 was a great miracle, actually, because the resolutions made by the Vatican, actually by Pope Francis, and presented by the Secretary of the Synod, were all rejected by the bishops. It was rejected. It was disapproved. And this, of course, was the idea of allowing remarried Catholics to remarry and to receive Holy Communion.
Adultery situation.
It's an adultery situation.
Okay, yes. Right.
And so obviously because most of the bishops attending the Synod were conservative and they knew that this was wrong, they disapproved it. So what was presented by Pope Francis to the Synod were completely disapproved by the bishops attending the Synod.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, after the Synod, Pope Francis began to encourage all the bishops to put it into practice. What was disapproved to put it into practice.
My God, it was approved in the meeting. How come they want to practice the disapproved message?
Yeah, it was disapproved, and yet many bishops were being encouraged to approve it when it was, as you said, Brother Lord, disapproved.
Yes, Father.
Like, for instance, the bishops of Germany have approved it. They allowed remarried Catholics to remarry and to receive Holy Communion. Argentina has also approved it, and some other South American countries. And so the people are completely confused.
In other words, some countries accepted what the Pope stated and the others did not because they know it was wrong.
Yeah, like for instance, the African bishops disapprove it.
It's wrong.
And we have not heard any African bishops who are following the suggestion of Pope Francis, except for a few. We have heard some. But in general, the African bishops disapprove it because they were the majority who disapproved it during the Bishop Synod of 2015. But many European bishops are putting it into practice even though it is disapproved. And some South American bishops are approving it when it was disapproved. And even here in the Philippines, the president of the CBCP at that time wanted to put it into practice even though the synod had disapproved it. Fortunately, the bishops did not follow the suggestion of the president of the CBCP during that time.
Okay. So, but let's make it clear again. Married Catholics should not remarry. First, that's it, no, right?
Yeah.
Then, if you remarry, then you are in an adulterous situation.
And
you cannot receive Holy
you
Communion.
cannot
That's
receive
clear.
Holy Communion.
Okay, but so it's clear. That's against the Christ's command.
I mean, that is the doctrine of the Catholic Church.
Isn't it?
That's why it was disapproved by the bishops because it is against
The
the
Catholic
teachings
teachings
of the Catholic
Okay.
Church.
And the teaching of Catholic Church is based on Christ's teaching.
Yes, all the teachings of the Catholic Church, according to the Catechism, should come from divine revelation, which is the teaching of Jesus Christ, as interpreted by the fathers of the Church, or as interpreted by tradition. So all Catholic teachings must come from there. So obviously, during the Bishop Synod of 2015, the suggestion of Pope Francis and introduced by the secretaries of the Bishop Synod were against the teaching of the Catholic Church. And that's the reason why the bishops disapprove it.
It seems so clear. It was not even blurred. The statement was clearly wrong. Wasn't it clearly wrong? What
Well,
he
according
suggested?
to you, Tachi,
But according to the Pope, it's not. Is that what you
clearly wrong.
clearly correct?
precisely because that's the confusion during the Bishop Synod.
Yes.
That the majority disapprove it, and the majority was right. Was right.
Because it's clear. They felt.
Like for you, Tachi, it was clear.
Okay.
But the majority of the officials of the Bishop Synod, like Baldisseri, and Tagle, and so on like that, were in favor of it. So we have a confusion.
Yes, of
Yes, that's right, Father.
Because, yes. They don't
And even
agree.
and the theologians of the Bishop Synod were approving it. Many of the officials of the Bishop Synod
Theologians.
were approving it. We're approving the adulterous relationship and the receiving of Holy Communion. So there was total confusion in the Bishop Synod. And the confusion followed after the Bishop Synod because Pope Francis began to encourage other bishops to obey what was disapproved, as Brother Lodi was saying.
Okay, pushing it.
And now the whole Catholic Church is confused.
You'd say that because some are obeying it
Yeah,
in their own
because some
dioceses.
yes,
and,
some.
and some are not.
Some are not. And
So
some
you
are.
don't know. And so now other people, if they don't know what is and then their convictions, they don't know which
Yeah.
side to take.
If you don't know your catechism, you wouldn't know what side to take. Because there are bishops on both sides.
Yeah.
But they're supposed to know this catechism of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Who is supposed to know?
This priest, because they cannot be a priest not unless you know the basic teaching of the Catholic doctrine.
Now, that's the sad thing. In the first place, you're right, Brother Lodi, they're supposed to know the catechism. And the Pope is supposed to know the
Yes,
catechism.
definitely.
But the point is, they went against the teachings of the catechism. And so, what will be the basis of judgment of the ordinary lay Catholic when two groups of bishops are contradicting one another?
I don't understand it, Father. What's going on in the mind of Pope Francis for going against what was approved in the Synod?
Yeah. To go into the mind of Pope Francis is a little difficult, no?
But on the basis of what he said and what his instruction, you can...
Yeah, that's the most that we can do.
Yes, Father.
That he said something, the other bishop said another thing. We don't know now who is right. So what do? We go back to our own catechism. You, Brother Lodi, Tachi, and myself, we should go back to the catechism and try to find out who said the right thing and who said the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
But many are not doing it.
They just accept.
They are not checking the catechism to find out who is right and who is wrong.
Do you think, Father, it will be a sin of omission for not studying the right doctrine of the church, especially the church?
Well, it is a sin of omission. Yeah, it's a very serious sin because we are obliged to seek the truth. Especially as our program is trying to inculcate, especially if there is a doubt, because there is a confusion.
Yes, Father.
In other words, we must resolve the doubt that we see two groups of bishops teaching opposite things. We have to find out who is right and who is wrong. We have to resolve the doubt because the rule in theology is when you act in doubt, it's a sinful act.
When in doubt, don't do it.
Yeah, when in doubt, you resolve the doubt first.
Okay.
When in doubt, you make research for the truth.
Yes. In other words, you resolve it, you fix it up.
Fix it up.
Yeah? And that is not fixed up to now.
What are they doing now because of that statement?
In other words,
They're doing nothing.
some are doing what they want, the other one's doing the other one.
Exactly.
So
Everybody's
just doing what they want.
is just doing what they want. If they like what
But, yeah.
the other bishop says,
Okay.
that you can commit adultery, so they're doing it. A very bad example, of course, is the fact that they say that Pope Francis wants to approve divorcees or remarried Catholics. Remarried meaning to say you were married before, you left your husband, and then you remarried. That is adultery.
Yes, Father.
So you cannot receive Holy Communion.
Yes, Father.
And they're saying in the news that Pope Francis is approving that because he has a relative who is in that state.
I see.
Now that's a very poor reason
Yeah,
for
Yes, Father.
doing, just because your relative is committing adultery and receiving Holy
Everybody
Communion.
knows.
Everybody should do it.
Yeah.
Father,
doesn't
excuse me,
make
we have only
sense.
1 minute, please.
So that is the confusion, and no bishop is resolving it. Nobody would dare that the bishops who rejected it are right and that Pope Francis is wrong. Nobody is saying that. So it remains unresolved. One group of bishops allowing remarried Catholics to remarry and to receive Holy Communion. Another bishop saying it's wrong, and nobody is resolving it.
Thank you very much, Father. We're sorry, but we're lack of time. Thank you for watching Dialogues with Father Don De Castro. Please continue watching this program for us to know what we should do to follow the right doctrine of the Catholic Church. Thank you very much.
Hosanna